Hi, this is Nancy McKay, and it's Sober Sunday Stories. Today I'm all by myself, and I just thought that I would um, tell you some of my story and why I do what I do. So I started drinking in high school with all my buddies, and that was what that turned out to be was a way for me to feel comfortable in my own skin. I found that I could talk to people easier. It was easier to talk to boys. Um, and I sure had fun. There's no doubt about that. Um, and then I got married young. I got married at 19, which was a mistake. But for the 2 years that we were married, I didn't drink much. I mean, it just wasn't something that we did. Um, and then after I got divorced, I started partying a little bit. Some of my friends were still in college, but so I'd go up to Boulder and party with them. And, um, I was going out dancing and having fun. And, life was pretty good. Life was really good, actually. And then when I was 30, I was transferred up to the Pacific Northwest with the job that I had. And I felt I felt so at home there. I just fell in love with the area, and all of the friends that came with me with our job up there, most of them were partiers. So my partying ramped up, and I remember vividly the first time I poured myself a glass of wine at home when I was by myself. I wasn't entertaining. I wasn't expecting anybody to come over. I had wine left over from the weekend. I think it was probably a Monday or Tuesday night. And I poured myself a glass of wine. And I wondered, hmm, I wonder if this means I have a drinking problem if I'm drinking by myself. I remember that. And of course, I just brushed that off. No, 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 no. So I moved back to Denver in 4 years later when my mom was ill. And um, there wasn't much change in my drinking. I was still going out and partying, but I didn't notice a ramp up. And then after I was 40, I had met my now husband, and we were the fun couple. And, um, and we had a lot of fun. And he was my drinking buddy, and all of our friends were drinking pretty heavily, and we all had a really good time. But there were times when I would kind of go off the rails. I would drink too much and, um, do something stupid like, take a walk with the dog at midnight and, uh, you know, worry my husband and get worried myself. And, there were just times that I knew that I was overdoing. And, if I woke up with a particularly horrible hangover, then, I would lay off for a couple weeks just because I felt so rotten, right? Never with the intention that I was not going to drink again. It would just be that I couldn't hardly stomach it for a while. And so I never really tried to quit drinking before I ultimately did. And when uh, my father, who was an alcoholic, he killed himself in 2007. And that sent my drinking into a whole different realm. And because I felt so guilty and I was so devastated, I guess. And I just, my drinking increased, and it just took on a different, kind of a different personality. And because I was drinking more and more frequently, um, I started feeling the physical effects of it. And, you know, up until that time, one of the things that I often wondered was what is my purpose? Why am I here? And what am I really supposed to do? And, I've always been into personal development. And I remember sitting on my patio reading The Four Agreements and drinking a glass of Chardonnay and smoking Marlboro Lights and trying to figure out life. So I've always been kind of on a quest, right? And at that point, nobody in my world was talking about how much we were drinking or if there was a different way to live. Nobody that I knew talked about that. And I didn't, I guess I didn't really search too much for it, but I know that when I felt particularly like I had a problem, I would go to the bookstore and I would kind of sheepishly look in the, you know, addiction aisle and try to sneakily take books off the shelf and hide them under another book so that no one walking by would see that I was looking at that kind of stuff. Because I was ashamed, right? I was full of shame. And again, I didn't know who to talk to about that. So then fast forward, my father dies. I feel guilty. I'm drinking a lot more and I'm feeling the physical effects of that. My hands start shaking so bad I can't hardly draw on my eyeliner. Now I know that sounds silly, right? But that's one of those markers where, you're standing in front of your mirror in the bathroom and you're trying to get ready for your day and your hands are shaking so badly, it was like this. And, I was having a tough time functioning. Looking back, I know that that's probably one of the reasons why people start drinking in the morning is to alleviate the shakes. I wasn't ready to do that yet. It really didn't, I don't know if it crossed my mind. The idea of drinking wine in the morning never appealed to me, and it didn't occur to me that anything else would fix it. And the idea of drinking in the morning just never, I suspect that that's one of the things that it doesn't appeal to you. It's one of the things that you have to do in order to function. And so I hadn't quite gotten there yet, but I think if I had kept drinking the way I was, I would have gotten there very soon. But what happened was a couple years after my father died, I was having a really tough time emotionally. Now, let me also say that I had been taking antidepressants for years and pouring alcohol over them. And so when you do that, it negates the antidepressants, right? So you might as well not be taking anything. And I had been diagnosed with clinical depression. So I was taking medication and it helped me when I wasn't drinking much. But, now I'm drinking you know, quite a bit. So it's not helping. And I was feeling very depressed and very emotionally fragile. And, I tried to pretend like everything was okay and that everything was normal. And so one night, Friday the 13th of 2009 of March, Friday the 13th of March, 2009, we went to happy hour with some friends. And this restaurant that we went to was notorious for serving, their wine glasses were very, very small. They were like, those 4-ounce little glasses of wine. And so I had finished off, we had about an inch of wine in the wine bottle, which was unusual. Why did we even save that much? But at any rate, we did. And there was just, a little bit. So I finished that before we went to the bar or the restaurant. And I had probably 3 or 4 of those little glasses of wine, which ordinarily wouldn't hardly faze me. But for some reason that night it did. And I think it was just because I was emotionally unbalanced. And I think that was it. I don't know if my hormones were, raging or what was happening with me physiologically, but the alcohol affected me more intensely that evening. I had had just a little cup of clam chowder, while we were there. And so not much food on my stomach. That could have been another reason. Anyway, we get home and I realized that, oh my God, we don't have any more wine in the house. I said to Jimmy, I said, damn it, we should have stopped at the liquor store to buy more wine. And he said, well, I think you've had enough. So those 5 little words, I think you've had enough, was all it took to send me into a tantrum, really, is what it boiled down to. That's exactly what it boiled down to. I went into the bedroom, I slammed the door, and started, muttering to myself and all, how you mutter when you're angry at somebody. And then that was quickly turned into a pity party. Oh, poor me, right? So now I'm sobbing. I'm still angry, but I'm feeling really bad. And that turned into kind of severe melancholy to the point where I felt like everyone would be better off without me. And I had had thoughts like that before. I've had them off and on throughout my life. And so I was so certain that that was true that I got out of the bed and went around to my husband's nightstand and got his handgun out of the drawer. And I put the gun to my head and I pulled the trigger and it didn't fire. I tried to pull the trigger, but the trigger wouldn't engage because the safety was on. Now, I was confused. I'm like, why the hell won't this work? I almost called Jimmy in to say, to help me. Can you help me figure out how to work this? Isn't that interesting? And then it dawned on me, oh, the safety must be on. And so as soon as I figured out how to release the safety, the gun fired because it was a really sensitive trigger. Fortunately, the gun was lowered It wasn't pointing at me. And the only thing that got shot was an innocent pillow on the bed. I haven't had a drink since that night. I got scared sober, and I say that was my moment of standing at the intersection of desperation and grace, because I was so desperate to not hurt anymore and not to be in the emotional pain that I was in. And for some reason, the universe, God, whatever, saved me. And so in that moment, I was terrified, and I wasn't aware of the grace part of it, really. I was just shocked. I was shocked. And I was shocked at what could have been a horrible, horrible event. As it was a shocking event, certainly, but it was, and very traumatic. And yet, obviously, it could have been so much worse. So, what happened after Jimmy ran in and grabbed the gun out of my hand and punched a hole in the wall, he hid the gun, and it was like our lives shifted on its axis right then. I knew that I could no longer drink safely. I knew that that's where my drinking takes me, and that was a really big wake-up call. So fortunately, I had a neighbor who was in recovery, and she took me to my first couple of AA meetings. And I lived and breathed recovery for over a year, but for a good solid year. And then I got a job. I was I finally was, got a job. I had been self-employed doing design work, and one day Jimmy said, I think you need to look for a real job. So I did. And I was lucky to find a job back in the industry that I had been in off and on for many years. And I got a great job with a great company, paying me great money. It was great. And that everything was good. And yet I was horrified that someone at my job would find out that I was in recovery, that I was sober, that I didn't drink, that I, just that they'd find out, right? So even though I was sober for over a year, I was still full of shame, because you're not supposed to talk about it. And so that was one of the things that started causing me great discomfort. And it's something that I've thought about a lot over the years. So one of the hang on a sec, gotta have a drink of water. So one of the things that um, one of the big things that happened. So about 6 years into my sobriety, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer and went through chemotherapy and had all the fun stuff, lost my hair and so on and so forth. And I got through that with, suffering very few side effects. I was really lucky. I lost my hair and, just little bitty other side effects, nothing big. So I was really, really lucky. But what happened was, as I was going through all of that, my perspective on life began to change. And I realized that while I worked for a great company and I enjoyed the people that I worked with, and I certainly loved the benefits and the salary and all that stuff, I was really unhappy with how I was spending my life, right? And meanwhile, I was, still diving headfirst into personal development. I always had been. And so I was doing a little online class with Brene Brown, and I had volunteered to be a practice client for a friend of mine who was going through a coaching program, and she needed practice hours. And so I volunteered for that. And it was fabulous. It was so cool. And then I hired another coach on my own. And that was fabulous. And I thought, gosh, I wonder if I could do this, because it really resonated with me. It really spoke to me. And so on one Christmas vacation, I read a book by Martha Beck, and so far it's been her only work of fiction. It's called Diana Herself. And it was this incredible book about this woman named Diana, not the royal Diana. And it felt like Martha was talking to me the whole time. And so the couple months after I read that book, she was going to be doing a workshop in California. And I just had to go. And so I went to see her. I met some really cool people while I was there. And this one woman really encouraged me to sign up for her coaching program. And I was just thrilled. Because this just felt so intensely right for me. So I came home and registered for this life coaching program. And, the rest is kind of history, as they say. As I was still enrolled in that program, I got to participate in a couple of Equus coaching workshops. I went to one retreat, and then I had a workshop with some of the coaches who work for Martha Beck, are also Equus coaches. And I went to one of their workshops and then decided that I had to do that work because that was amazing. And so I'm telling you, horses are magic. And I should have my horses are magic t-shirt on. What I learned is that, I feel so relaxed around horses it's just this feeling comes over me that everything's going to be all right. And everybody's different, but for me, I thought, boy, if I can do this work and have an impact on someone and feel this way while I'm doing it, holy shit, sign me up. So I signed up for that. So before I finished up with my Equus coaching certification, I retired from my corporate job. And if you follow me at all, you've noticed that this on Friday, I co-authored a book called Corporate Dropouts. And so my story about that is in this book. And it's very, it's an exciting time for this book. We launched and it's already an international bestseller. So that's really fun. But I had a lot of people, cheering me on and rooting for me. And I had a few people who thought I was out of my goddamn mind. And it didn't stop me. And it hasn't stopped me because I know that this is what I am supposed to be doing. And what I'm supposed to be doing is being the person that I needed when I was in my 40s and I started questioning my drinking and I didn't have anybody to talk to. That's the person I want to be, is that person who can talk to somebody and tell them what's happening to them and help them get through it and help them decide how to change their relationship with alcohol. That's who I want to be. That's who I am. I am that person who can help you if you are over drinking and you want to change your relationship with alcohol. That's what I do. And when horses are involved, it happens that much faster because horses are so intuitive and they help you get to your truth on a cellular level. You will land on your truth faster with a horse. It's the magic of it. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So, this has been kind of a long story. And I hope that you've viewed the whole thing. And if you're one of the many women out there who are struggling with alcohol, and let me tell you, there's a lot of us. There's a lot of women who struggle with this. There's a lot of moms, lots of soccer moms are not drinking water out of their water bottle. A lot of, corporate women are overwhelmed at work and are coming home and, pouring a whole lot of wine or whiskey or vodka in order to cope with the stress. This is not a moral issue. This is another epidemic of addiction. And here's the thing. Alcohol is an addictive substance. It's no different than heroin. Heroin is an addictive substance. Alcohol is an addictive substance. It's not reasonable to think that you can drink a lot of alcohol and not become addicted to it. And so, if you find yourself in that position of, I don't know how to do this. I don't know if I want to do this. How do I live without Chardonnay? That was the question I asked. How the hell am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to go to a wedding? How am I supposed to go to a birthday party? How am I supposed to deal with Tuesday without a glass of Chardonnay or a glass of champagne or a mimosa at Sunday brunch or whatever, right? How am I supposed to live my life without alcohol in it? Well, I'm here to tell you that it can be done. And not only can it be done, but my life has improved exponentially since I took alcohol out of the equation. It takes courage to eliminate something from your life that is no longer serving you. And so by looking at this and getting some help, whether it's from me or anywhere else, that's a courageous act. And I want you to stand in that courage and own it. And know that there's no shame and there's no judgment if you decide to stop drinking or change your drinking habits. First of all, it's nobody's business but yours. You're the one who has to live with yourself and look yourself in the mirror and decide if how you're living your life right now feels like the way you want to live the rest of your life. And if it isn't the way you want to live the rest of your life, I'd be happy to just have a phone call with you and let's talk about what your options are. So if that appeals, you can go to my website, amazingoutlookcoaching.com. And I will, I'll drop a link in the comments. And you can also join my Facebook group called Women and Alcohol. And, we're still a pretty small group and we'd love to have you. And, you can start building a community there of people who will support you, women who will support you, and where you can learn about some of this stuff, right? So I thank you for watching, and just know that there are lots of people out there who would be happy to be of help to you. And I'm one of them. And I would love to hear from you. So go out there, make it a great day. And, one of my, one of the things that I didn't tell you before is my mantra as I was contemplating leaving my corporate job. And that was, I didn't get sober and survive cancer to be miserable. And you don't have to be miserable anymore either. So look at it this way. Day one or one day, It's up to you, right? It's your life, and you can change what you don't like about it. Okay, I think that's it. Take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye.